So without further delay, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator today from the Retail Industry Leaders Association, Ms. Jess Dack.
Hi everyone, welcome. Good to see so many faces in here today. We've got a great panel lined up for everyone, so let's get into that without any further ado. Just to introduce everyone, we have Howard Mingo, who's the General Transportation Manager at the Walmart Distribution Center in LaGrange, Georgia. Brian Younglove, who's the Supply Chain Manager with King's Hawaiian. We'll have Mark Holifield, who's the Executive Vice President of Supply Chain and Product Development for the Home Depot. And also Christopher LaGullo, who's the Executive Director of America's Logistics for Merck Pharmaceuticals. So we've got a great panel. We're going to have these guys tell you a little bit about their business and their supply chain and logistics activities. And by all means, please fill out great questions. They're a great resource, and we have to have a great conversation out here today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Howard, would you like to kick us off?
We had a band. Okay, we had a band.
No.
Can you hear me? Good morning. My understanding that we are between you and lunch, so we'll make this short and sweet. You know how hungry people are. My name is Howard Mingo. I'm the General Transportation Manager at LaGrange, Georgia, about 60 miles south, right on 85, exit 18. I've been with Walmart for 15 years, and I've held this position at 3 different facilities. Our distribution center is on 225 acres. It has 1.2 million square feet under one roof. We have 314 doors, 115 shipping lanes, and we can hold about 80,000 pallets at one time. We have 23 miles of conveyors with over 1,000 motors move those conveyors. We can move about 360 cartons a minute. It looks like a traffic jam, those few occasions where they let me go up there. But my expertise is in the transportation department. I have 165 drivers, 50 associates that work in our shop, and 25 associates that work in our office, along with 13 managers. And what we do is we pick up the merchandise at the vendors. Pretty simple. Bring it to the distribution center. They do whatever they do. They load it back up. Then we take it out and we deliver it to the stores and clubs. Atlanta being a backhaul-rich area, we pick up just as many loads as we actually deliver. So that's one of the things that we really enjoy doing. Some money in that. These are a couple of my drivers, and they found out I was. Let's see if this clicker is this thing going to move here. I'm clicking. It ain't moving. Is it moving out there? Well, can I move it if I hit enter? Yeah, there we go. They found out I was doing a presentation. They asked could they get in the picture. So I let them get in the picture, and you probably see they all were kind of holding their stomachs in. I'm going to give you just 4 things I'm going to talk about today because they told me I only have about 15 minutes. We're going to talk about equipment, drivers, which is near and dear to our heart, operations, and traffic concerns. When I started with the company back in '98, this is the tractor that we drove. In fact, I had to look up some stats to see what we got miles per gallon because it really wasn't as important as it is today. And I found out it was between 5 and 5.5. And this is going to move again. Okay, this is the tractor that we use today. If driven right, we get about 8 miles to a gallon, which makes a huge difference because we, just out of our facility alone, run about 225,000 miles in a week, about 1 million miles in a month. I hope you all have seen this tractor and trailer. It was on the internet, and that's where I snatched this from, and I can tell you it's a mouthful what it actually is. It is a hybrid micro turbine powertrain with a lightweight carbon fiber trailer. We'll never have this thing. But we might. Because if you look at the difference between what we had 15 years ago and what we have today, there's a huge difference. Don't know what the mileage is going to get, but they tell me that carbon fiber at one piece, 53 feet long, is the biggest carbon fiber piece ever made. So you can imagine it costs a pretty penny, but obviously it's going to have to give us a return on our investment before we put this out. Now my drivers love it because it only has one seat. I can't go with them and critique what they're doing, so they're looking for that thing right away. Drivers. And if you deal with drivers, I hire drivers, I manage drivers. It's difficult to get drivers nowadays. So what do? We're trying to increase our driver pool, but we're trying to increase our quality driver pool, which is difficult. It's hard to tell somebody 25 years old that they're going to be away from home for a week. We have it better than most. We get our drivers in every week. As you know, some drivers out a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that's difficult to tell them that they're going to miss little Johnny's ball games, because that's important nowadays. So hiring quality drivers is difficult. So we try to improve the driver conditions. That is, again, get them home every week. If they do work on the weekend, we give them a bonus, 5 cents a mile if they work Saturday and Sunday. We have better equipment, obviously, with better bedding, microwaves, refrigerators, CPAP machines, everything that makes it like home, right? The improved equipment, of course, the tractors are improved with the, you got the logging machines that does it for drivers. I'm talking to drivers just yesterday in the break room. Their log machine broke down in the tractor. They didn't know how to log. They did not know how to manually log because they've been so dependent on the logging machine doing it itself as equipment. Of course, we've got computers in each tractor, which allows the driver to get his or her instructions as they are moving down the road. So once they get to their destination, they don't have to hesitate. They don't have to call us. It's on the computer. Next stop, go get it. Improved home time. Because people shop every day of the week, we have to deliver every day of the week. We miss a day in some stores, the store's shelves start to get bare. So we know our drivers can't work 7 days a week. So we have a lot of different rotating schedules that allow us to deliver every day. But also when we allow a driver to go home, he gets 1.5 or 2 days off in a row. We don't ask them to come back and then go back out. They do get quality home time. Here's one of our ads. This is Ricky, one of our good drivers, and this is what we're looking for, a driver who has experience. We don't hire drivers out of school. They have to have experience. They have to have so many miles that they have gone without an accident, injuries, and just have a great record, right? Everything goes to our central office in Bentonville, Arkansas. They go through the qualifications. They go through a background check. And then they send me the best ones. Last time we put out an ad, I had 753 applications. And so I end up interviewing about 30 drivers. But we're looking for Ricky, and what I had come through my door was this. I hope everybody saw that. I hope, because you know they do film in Georgia, so everybody see that. But it's amazing at what you actually get out of those 753 drivers after it's been narrowed down to who you think you're going to hire. I do the final interview, then I give them to my safety manager, who takes them out for a really serious safety test. Because, great, a driver can talk to me, he interviews well, but I need him to go out and drive. I need him to be good to customers, but I need him to drive. So the safety man really has a big say-so in this. And when my safety man goes out with the driver and he comes back in 10 minutes later, I know there was a problem. The driver's already hit something in the yard, because we in the industry do a lot of driving forward, but we at Walmart do a lot of driving backwards. We actually go to a store and back in. And you will be amazed at how many drivers have 1 million miles going forward and hit my equipment in the yard going backwards. So once they hit something, obviously, we don't hire them. So my next point was the improvement of our equipment. Like I said earlier, we have increased our miles per gallon in 15 years from 5 to 5.5 to over 8 on our newest equipment. We actually talk to our drivers about driving habits because we're able to give them a sheet every month that tells them on their driving habits what gear they were in, when they had idled, and if they get a bad report, we kind of want to sit down with them and encourage them to drive better. Now, if you deal with drivers, you know how difficult that is with a driver who's been driving 20, 25 years. Me, I'm no longer a college kid, but I used to be called a college kid. I'm going to come in, never been a driver, and I'm going to tell him how to drive. Well, these stats are saying that he or she is not giving us our most proficiency in our driving with our fuel, and they're going to have to change their driving habits. We're to the point now, if a driver slams on his brakes, we get a notice, comes over our computer. That driver has had a critical event, is what it's called. And that means that for some reason, he decelerated at a certain rate that was faster than we want. And the next time we see him, we're going to ask him about that critical event. At first, it was kind of a joke, and we had a lot of them. We don't get a lot of them anymore because drivers, I don't know why, I'm a pretty nice guy, but they just don't like to come talk to me and explain why they're slamming on the brakes and endangering people out there or not getting the best fuel mileage that we think they should get. All our new tractors have radar systems on it, just like the Mercedes-Benz. Okay, if our driver was to get close to another vehicle, that radar system will retard his engine and then start braking his tractor and equipment. Now, obviously, it can't do anything against the law of physics. He's going 65 miles an hour and somebody just slams on the brakes. I mean, it can't stop it. But if given a chance, it will stop the vehicle before it hits the vehicle in front of it. And obviously, everyone knows how expensive a rear-end collision is nowadays. You start adding zeros to those checks. As a matter of fact, I've been told by a driver that a vehicle was ahead of him. He lost it in the fog, but the radar system still saw it. And if he got close to it, it would start backing the equipment off. So it's a really good system. It has really slowed down our rear-end collisions. APU, I should have spelled that out, but that's the auxiliary power unit. And we started putting those on our equipment about 6 years ago. We found out in 2 years they actually pay for themselves. They handle our S-bar, which is what warms our tractors. They handle our air conditioning. They also will charge up the batteries if they go down. And it's about $6,000, but it sips a cup of fuel an hour. And you know that island tractors is about a gallon of fuel in an hour. So they literally pay for themselves. So all our tractors that are 4 years old or less come equipped with them. Again, the cabins are a lot more comfortable, a little bigger, a little better mattress, and a little more equipment in the cabin. And improved electronics have given us a chance to allow the drivers not to be able to, not to know how to log. If they know how to work the computer and push the right buttons, it will tell them how many hours they have left for the day, how many hours they have left for the week, when they can reset. Anybody deal with drivers and have trouble with the 34-hour reset, have to have 2 days consecutively off between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. and it's like, oh, it's confusing. So the computer does it for them now. Sometimes I'm talking to them, I get confused on it. So we have improved their home time. We have several driver programs that I can talk to you about real quick. I know I'm running out of time, but we have drivers that work 7 days on and 7 days off. We have drivers that work 4 days on, 4 days off, work 5 days off, 3, work 5 days off, 2. We have drivers that work 6 days on and 3 days off. So we do all those programs so we can have drivers working 7 days a week and have our equipment actually running 7 days a week because our customers have demanded that we deliver 7 days a week. Our week off program, any of our drivers, a weekend off that is, that have to work 3 consecutive weekends, we give them a weekend off, if they want it. I mean, we don't pay them, but we give them the time off. So if they want it, they can schedule that with their kids' football game, baseball game, that type of thing. We make sure that we give them their days off in a row. If we don't have 10% of our folks off and the driver wants another day off, he calls in, we give him the day off. So we're trying to make it a little more comfortable and making it easier for a driver to work with his family on these types of things. Vacation time, our drivers, they get vacation time after 1 year, but our drivers also get 4 weeks after 15 years. We encourage them to take the time off, but we give them ability to buy back some of their time. If they want to work 2 of those weeks, we'll allow them to work and give them a check for working that week. So, but we encourage them to take the time off. Everybody needs time off with their family. Operations, real quick. In order to help us, because we're trying to get more miles to a gallon, we're trying to send out 100 trailers instead of 105. We have asked our vendors to decrease the size of their packaging, and some of you may be involved in this. If you were Clorox, we'd say take some of the water out. Instead of getting 4 loads from Clorox, maybe we'll get 3 loads from Clorox. So obviously that means we're going to take 3 trailer loads instead of 4 trailer loads. Makes our job easier, has less trucks on the road, less mileage, less fuel, less driver pay. All works out for us. Increased cartons per trailer. We actually work with the warehouse, and this is the few times that I actually go on the warehouse floor because I think they might think I belong out there, so I don't go out there. I don't like it. But we do go out there and encourage the associates to load more cartons onto a trailer. We give them t-shirts, we give them flashlights, we give them cookouts, we give them steaks, we give them hamburgers. All of that makes sense to me, and my operation pays for that because if I can put less drivers out on the road, less tractors, less fuel, the better off I am as an operation. I make more money. So we encourage them. They were at one point last year at this time, 1950. There are over 2,100 cartons per trailer, which gives me less trailers. Decreased idle time. We do not allow our drivers to idle when they're behind a store, when they're in the yard, and we don't allow our drivers to idle in the break room, so to speak. We try to dispatch them 2 hours ahead so they get the message, this is what you're going to do. So when you do hit our break room, you know if you have time or you want to take time to shower, break, and whatever, eat, but your dispatch assignment is ready for you. Now, that doesn't mean we're asking them to rush out and do anything dangerous because we deliver most of our merchandise the day before it is scheduled to go to the stores. But we want a driver to be able to make as much money as he would like to make. So he isn't allowed to idle behind the store, but we also encourage our drivers not to idle in the break room and go out and make money and deliver the merchandise. Add the use of APU, which I talked before, auxiliary power unit, and increase miles per gallon. Again, that's big. And we have contests with our drivers on that. Our drivers who get the best fuel mileage, we give them prizes. We give them flashlights, we give them gloves. A steak is a big deal. If we hit a certain matrix in our office, we have a steak cookout. Steak cookout costs me $2,300. Not a big deal compared to what fuel costs. Fuel is the second highest expense that I have in my office besides associate payroll. So it has been anywhere from $500,000 a month to $750,000 a month. So a steak cookout, pretty good deal to get some good fuel mileage. Outer route miles, I'll talk about this briefly. All our dispatch is computerized, and we have a lady named Jill that gives our drivers instructions on what routes to take. We ask our drivers to please listen to Jill. Every now and then she'll make a mistake, but for the most part, she will run them on the least amount of miles going to the store, going from the store to a vendor, and then going from the vendor back to a distribution center. Jill is pretty good, and if we get a driver that's over 2% on outer route miles, I have a conversation with that driver, try to ask him what he did, and he may have constructions or something like that that would make a difference. But if he's just going out of route miles to get a sandwich at a particular place, I explained to him that the outer route miles costing me $2.42 per mile, and he went 15 miles, so his $5 sandwich cost me $37. So that kind of gets the point when I put it that way. Improved backhaul revenue, real quick. When I first started with Walmart, we didn't pick up backhauls. We went to the store, we drove all those empty miles back, we went to the DC, we got another load, we went back to another store. And we given third parties to pick up those backhauls, and somebody come with the bright ideas. Whoa, if I'm out there and I'm 100 miles away from the DC, but I can go 20 extra miles and pick up that backhaul, and then I'm only empty 15% of my trip, that makes sense. We start getting logisticians out of college, and they start figuring this out for us, and we figure out we can make money that way. So now, most of our backhauls we pick up ourselves, and it does cost us a few more miles, but we try to keep our unloaded miles under 25%. We have a lot of metrics that we go over, and that's one of them. Traffic conditions in Atlanta. Anybody drive in today and get bumper to bumper as you got closer to the World Congress Center? I did. My drivers hate it. They absolutely hate it. When I sit down with the driver and I hire a driver, I said, we work out of LaGrange. Guess where we're going? To Atlanta. We're going to Atlanta. This particular slide shows all the stores that we have in the Atlanta area. And they say, why can't I go to Florida? Why can't I go here? Because I have 114 stores in the Atlanta area. Most of them are super centers. I have 9 neighborhood markets. I have 2 specialty stores. One is Delta Airlines and one is Georgia Tech. So if you run out of LaGrange and you run for me, you're going to, everybody? Atlanta, okay. Driving in the Atlanta market. So what do we do to try to make this a little better for our drivers? We try to dispatch around traffic. If a driver is in at 5 in the evening, take an hour break, then go out. We'll put trailers, extra trailers at a store where a driver can go there, hopefully in the middle of the night, and drop and hook and take off. But doing that, we also want to be a good neighbor. We don't want one of our stores that's in a residential area having a truck making noise at 2 in the morning. Obviously, that's bad. That's bad for business. That's bad. That's not the right thing to do. So we go to the stores that's in the commercial area, of course. We can go there at 2 in the morning. But the ones that's in the neighborhood, we're going to deliver those during the day. Night runs, again, we'll do that if we can to get around Atlanta's traffic. And again, we'll use extra trailers at the store. So that is my presentation. I might have went a minute or 2 over, but I was trying to do that as fast as I can. Hopefully I got everything in, and then we'll have questions after this is all over, all right? Thank you for your attention.
Thanks so much, Howard. I guess we'll hold questions until the end then, and Brian, if you want to jump on up.
Aloha, kakakiyaka, y'all. That's my Hawaiian Southern attempt at good morning to all of you. And I'm not really sure which piece of it needs more work. Maybe you can tell me after. I'm Brian Younglove. I'm part of the King's Hawaiian family. And I am really excited to be here to talk with all of you. Today I want to tell you a little bit about King's Hawaiian, who they are, what we do. Talk about the future as we see it from a domestic logistics point of view. Talk about some of the big wins we've had in that area, and then also address some of the opportunities that we still have in front of us. So if you're going to tune out, give me one more slide, you get the Cliff's Notes version. So first and foremost, King's Hawaiian makes amazing bread. Have any of you not had King's Hawaiian bread? Everybody's had it. It's amazing. I see a hand over there. You need to come see me after. I'm going to change your life, I promise. But I apologize in advance. It's addicting, so as I hope most of you know. So we really see the future of supply chain in the area of big data, and we'll talk more about what that means later in the presentation. We've seen some of our big wins so far in the area of controlling costs and building agility into our supply chain. And we continue to see opportunities in the area of inventory management and forecasting, which we'll talk more about as we get into the presentation. So King's Hawaiian, we really want everyone everywhere to experience Hawaii. And how we do that is by bringing them this product that we make. And that's really the opportunity. So again, as I said, we make amazing bread, and we have a bread product portfolio, even though we really think of ourselves as a Hawaiian foods company. As you can see, we make dinner rolls. Dinner rolls show up at major holidays like Thanksgiving or as part of a slider barbecue scenario. We do hamburger buns and hot dog rolls, great for grilling season, and you can't make bread not make sliced bread. Really great Sunday morning French toast. That's a favorite of mine. So now that you know a little bit about the products that we make, let me talk a little bit about where we've come from. So not surprisingly, it all started in Hawaii. In 1950, Robert Tyra, the founder of King's Hawaiian, opened his first bakery in Hilo, Hawaii. Business was pretty good, and he moved the bakery to Honolulu, specifically King Street, and the brand was born. As business continued to grow, what Robert and the family noticed is that a lot of visitors to Hawaii were actually sending the product back stateside. In fact, they became one of the biggest, King's Hawaiian was one of the biggest shipments that the U.S. Postal Service had from Hawaii. So in the 70s, decided to move stateside and opened up our first batch manufacturing facility in Torrance, California. We continued to grow, and in the early 2000s, we opened our first high-speed facility just down the street from our first facility. And we've continued to grow mostly by word of mouth, and as that growth continued, we needed to expand again. And so in 2011, we moved in to the state of Georgia. And Georgia has been, the state has been very gracious hosts the entire time that we've been here. We have some really solid business partners that we work with in the state of Georgia. State and local government has been helpful and been with us every step of the way. A great example of this was a few months ago we had a meeting out at our facilities in Oakwood, which is out near Gainesville. I hope I got that direction right for all of you. And we had local government, state agency people, people from Georgia Tech, all there with the leadership team of King's Hawaiian. And it was a great day to just sort of get together and brainstorm and talk about best practices and how we can all work better together. So we continue to add to our capacity here in Georgia. We continue to add jobs here in Georgia, and we hope to continue to do so as we go forward. So if the past is indicative of the future, and we really believe it is, we've experienced some serious growth in the last few years, double-digit growth, in an industry where 3% growth would be great. And we think that double-digit growth will continue. But as we continue to have that growth, we are presented with some challenges as well. Specifically, one of our challenges is as you can see from the slide, we have a highly seasonal demand around the holiday period at the end of the year. And so that's a challenge for us to manage. And one of the ways we do this is we plan for it. And we plan for it by analyzing data. We really think that data is going to be a driver of our growth. The hero of this growth story is going to be the person that can make sense of that data. And we believe that the sexy data scientist, as you see here, will be the hero of our growth story. And if you don't believe me, you could ask Harvard. In 2013, Harvard published a study that said the sexiest profession of the 21st century will be the data scientist. And they describe a data scientist as a professional with the training and curiosity to make discoveries in the world of data. We think that discoveries piece is key. So growth, as we continue to grow, it will still require traditional supply chain skill sets, but it will also require these new skill sets. So we often probably think, oh, data scientists, where are they? Are they from some distant land? And sometimes it might seem like they are. But they can actually be tough to find. And I'll give you an example of a couple that we have at King's. One of the individuals, he holds a patent in, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to try, tire pyrolyzation technology. He worked as a project manager for a bioengineering startup, and he is one of our data scientists. He's very good with data, very good at picking up trends in data. Another individual, he was studying for his CFA in financial sales and hated his job. And after a brief conversation, I said, well, what's your background in? And he said, operations, research, and management science. I said, you should come be a data scientist for us. And he did. And I think these are great examples because our goal at King's is to really get to this real-time data analytics, every day, real-time, where we are able to provide actionable business intelligence to the organization. So this is going to be a challenge to achieve. And as we pursue this challenge, we'll really need to determine the value of our data. And this is a classic facepalm scenario. So if you don't know what a facepalm is, hold your hand up to your forehead and give it a high five. But seriously, the one person here, he's explaining about these awesome data and analytics that he's got. And the second person says, great, why are you doing this? And the first person says, I'm not sure, but it's got to be valuable. And he's right. It is valuable. And we think we know why. The key is kind of, I'm going to pull from a Donald Rumsfeld speech. He was asked about the future of data science, and what he said is the future is in the unknown unknown. So what does that not mean? Well, when my sales executive comes to me and says, hey, sales are down in the Southeast because of weather. You guys never have bad weather here, right? And that's a known unknown. Did we know the bad weather was going to happen? No, and we couldn't have known outside of 2 weeks. But now we know it did. And so there's going to be a trend, and we're going to pull that out. The unknown is something we don't know. We don't know right now. And we're going to pull that out of our data. So we've begun seeking out these unknown unknowns. And on our way, we sort of discovered that we had some low-hanging fruit in the organization that allows us not only to improve our data, but also improve our performance. So Howard actually touched on this, 2 of the 3 biggest supply chain costs are freight and fuel. And transportation management can help you with both of those. And what we needed was a system. We went from concept to go live on this system in 9 months. And our year 1 ROI for the system implementation will be 121%. That is a huge bottom line impact. Not to mention, it's a huge increase to our organizational performance as well. But this, although easy was not our only success, I promise this slide is about logistics. Are there any Georgia fans here? Come on, guys, it's interactive. Nobody likes Georgia? All right, we got one. Georgia Tech? Anybody from Georgia Tech? All right, there we go. And any Falcons fans? Are there Falcons fans? All right, okay, good. I probably left some really great institutions out, and I apologize. If you come see me after, I'll make sure they get into my next presentation. So supply chains are like football, right? Exactly. A working supply chain does things like blocking and tackling, just like a working football team. And they have basic skills that you need to be able to field a team. But a great supply chain looks at agility and builds in agility to their team. And they have advanced skills. And we really see agility being built into our supply chain in 2 ways. The first is through our third-party logistics providers. And these are our distribution centers, our carriers, our suppliers, and even our capacity. And what this all gives us is, our distribution centers, they give us adaptability to changing market conditions. Maybe we were high on our demand in the West, and now we're really big in the Northeast. And having partners that we can shift and move that supply through to meet that demand is critical. Our carriers partner both nationally and regionally. It gives us flexibility in how we're able to move our product through our shipping lanes. Our suppliers, and this is key, not being single-sourced. Baking is a science, and I still don't understand it completely. And one of the things we really try and do is not be single source, not be tied to one supplier, and really locate our suppliers near our factory facilities so that we're able to take advantage and really gain some flexibility in that. And the other area is in capacity, flexible capacity, the ability to make multiple products. And we are not, I heard a presentation yesterday, Boeing was talking about they moved 1.2 billion parts through their supply chain last year. We are not nearly that big. But it is important to have flexible capacity, turn it on and off as needed, and respond to the market. And then with people, and these are the sexy data scientists, can't forget about them. They give us that business intelligence that we need. So despite all the successes that we've seen, we still have a number of opportunities in front of us. And one of our biggest opportunities is in the area of inventory management. So it's so big, really, for us that we decided to let data tell the story for us. And when we got into it, our goal was really simplicity. And simplicity meant so easy I could explain it to a fifth grader, and they would understand what I was talking about, which was actually more challenging than we initially thought. But we classified our inventory, A, B, C, and D, something a fifth grader can understand. And we looked at the effort that we spent as individuals and as an organization on the issues related to the classification of our inventory. And what we found was that we spent 75% of our time and effort dealing with the bottom 10% of our inventory. It just didn't make any sense. And not only that, we found that the majority of our sales complaints, the vast majority, and you guys don't get any complaints from your sales team, right? It's just me? Okay. That they came on this same piece of inventory. So we decided, hey, we need to deal with this. We put it on cruise control. And what I mean by that is we literally just said, hey, we're going to produce a certain amount to forecast, and we'll talk more about that forecast in a second. We'll produce a certain amount to forecast. Our trigger to produce again will be when we short our first customer order. And we literally don't have to think about it. And you know, shorting a customer might be considered bad, but I'll tell you why it's not that bad for us in a second. This allowed us to focus on our core business, our A and B inventory. And one of the things we're able to do is really focus on managing that piece of our inventory, really making sure it's in the right location, that it's tied up to demand. We have a really high case fill rate. In fact, our trailing case fill rate, I just looked at it before I came, it's 99.8%, which is incredibly high for the industry. I think 98% is a leading sort of metric, maybe 98.5. And one of the things we really hope that we can do by focusing on this inventory is to increase our inventory turns. Our inventory turns are lagging. We need to increase those. So as I was mentioning, good inventory management is a result of good forecasting. And you know, we have a perfect forecast at King, so it makes it super easy. Kidding, we don't. Success with this management piece of our inventory is really the direct result of forecasting accuracy. And I figured, what better way to talk about forecasting than with a Dilbert cartoon? Supply chain within King's Hawaiian worked for about a year to educate and sell our leadership team on the importance of sales and operations planning, this integrated planning piece that we really felt we needed as an organization. It took us a year, but we're starting that process now. One of the things in that process is a consensus demand plan, where we all come together and we get a one-number forecast that we all work to. Sales and marketing, supply chain and operations, finance, heck, even throw in human resources and IT. We all work to the forecast. And that really helps us, but there's still opportunities for improvement. Specifically, we see opportunities for improvement in the areas of VMI, vendor managed inventory, and collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. These represent opportunities for us. In fact, great story, just a couple weeks ago, we were in a meeting of the leadership team. We're sitting there talking about forecasting not being accurate. And one of the members points across the table right at me and says, hey, what's that thing with all those letters that we're going to do that's going to help with the forecast? And I sort of looked around and said, CPFR? He was like, yeah, that's it. We need to do that. When are we going to do that? So I think, you know, it's a funny story, but they knew it was important. And I think that's the key. Education leads to this support. And have been really lucky to have a lot of executive engagement, which is really the key to a successful process here. And I think King's has come a long way from where we've been, but I still see a lot that we can do, and we're excited to take on that next generation of challenges. So with that, I just want to say thank you for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions during our Q&A. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. That was great. Next up, we'll have Mark Holifield from the Home Depot.
Right, thank you so much. Oh, wow. How do I do this? Ta-da. Voila. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you today about the Home Depot and the Home Depot supply chain. Many of you know the Home Depot, I'm sure, by the store down the street, so I won't spend a lot of time giving background on that. But I would like to just share with you the framework for our strategy at the Home Depot. We think about our strategy really as a pretty simple three-legged stool, and we think about that in terms of what are we passionate about most of all. We're most passionate about taking care of customers, so customer service makes up the first leg of that stool. Second, we ask ourselves, what can we be best in the world at? What we think we can be best in the world at is product authority and home improvement. We want to be your provider for all the home improvement goods that you need, and have the most innovative and the most value-based products we can give you in home improvement. The third key leg of the stool is what drives our economic engine. How do we make money? For many years at the Home Depot, what drove our economic engine was building new stores across the country. That's no longer what drives our economic engine. In fact, we don't see opening very many new stores in the United States. What drives our economic engine is disciplined capital allocation and ensuring that we have very high productivity throughout our company. So that really makes up our three-legged stool: customer service, product authority, and disciplined capital allocation and productivity. These days also, we think about the seat of the stool, and what we see pulling together the stool is a concept we call interconnected retail. Many people use the term omni-channel to describe the future of retail. We like to call it interconnected retail, and the way we think about that is, the store exists so that we can sell. The web exists so that we can continue to close sales on the web and in stores. So we think about the web as helping us draw people to the store and close those sales. We think about the store as helping us draw people to the web and close those sales. So it's a synergistic relationship between the web and the store. We don't really like to talk about e-commerce and store commerce. We just talk about commerce, and we really think about it as an interconnected retail experience. So where the supply chain comes into all that is really these four key tenets that I talk about in every presentation that I've ever given, so I apologize if this is boring and you've seen this before. But how supply chain really plays into that is through driving these four key deliverables. First, customer service begins with in-stock. We have to have the product there when the customer comes in to buy. Second, inventory productivity. We have about $11 billion in inventory at the Home Depot. It's very important that we turn that inventory quickly to keep our cash turning. Thirdly, to deliver on product authority and deliver on product productivity, we have to have a low-cost supply chain. So we need to be the low-cost producer in supply chain. Thirdly, we need to make sure that we're taking care of our stores and taking care of our customers with great supply chain service. We see those as the key tenets of a best-in-class supply chain. The way to think about the Home Depot supply chain over the past several years and going forward, when we look backwards, we look back and say, hey, we built a supply chain to take care of our stores. As we look forward, we look to continue to build our supply chain to take care of the new interconnected retail needs and the growing online business that we have. And thirdly, we need to continue to work to optimize those things that we've built and are building as we go forward. Our supply chain network, the last 7 years, we spent a lot of time redoing the Home Depot supply chain. We went from 20% central distribution to today 70% central distribution. We went from 20% central inventory management to now over 95% of our store SKU combinations are managed centrally. So we built a core network, and we've got 3 different types of distribution centers, plus we leverage the direct-to-store channel to ensure that our product gets to stores most efficiently. You can see from the map here that Georgia is very important to us, with 4 key facilities supporting our core retail stores. Plus we also operate a returns logistics center here in Georgia, and I'll talk about in a minute where we have opened a new direct fulfillment center as well. Which brings us to that future. We really look to build, as we think about interconnected retail going forward, and we think about direct fulfillment to customers. Our customers are increasingly taking up our delivery options. They're increasingly wanting product delivered to them when, where, and how they want it. So as we look at our overall business and how we're going to meet that challenge, we look at how do we manage our origins for all that, how do we manage our inventory, how do we manage our transportation resources, and how do we pull that together to really optimize an experience for the customers no matter where, when, or how they shop. They don't really care how the product gets to them. They don't care where it comes from. They just want it when and where and how they want it. Our product can come from our direct fulfillment centers, our stores, or direct from vendors. We need a global view of inventory so that we can drop that order to the right place, and we need a global view of transportation so that we can leverage all of our transportation resources going forward. As I said, we are building out our direct fulfillment centers as we go forward. We just have opened in the last month our Locust Grove, Georgia direct fulfillment center. This is a 1.1 million square foot facility down south of town here. We shipped our very first orders to customers yesterday, yesterday. So a very big milestone for us. Day before yesterday, excuse me. So great milestone for us. We plan 2 more of these large distribution centers, one in Paris, California, and one in Troy, Ohio. We'll open the California facility later this year, and we'll open in Ohio next year. The key to all this is getting to our customers very quickly. These new centers have new material handling capability, new warehouse management systems capability that will allow us to take an order today, ship that out tonight, and have it to the customer. For 90% of our orders, we expect using ground parcel to be at our customer within 2 days. So our goal here is to really speed up the flow of product through being able to pick orders faster, ship them quicker, and have these facilities ideally located to leverage the parcel networks and other transportation networks going forward. But we're not just looking at our direct fulfillment centers as origins for our customer orders. We also are looking at our stores. Every one of our 2,000 stores in the United States today is an origin for deliveries. We make deliveries from those stores. Typically it's building materials. Typically it's those flatbed trucks with the forklift on the back, taking product to customers' homes or to job sites and delivering. What's odd right now is that we can't take an order online and drop that to the store. That sounds very simple, but we don't have that capability just yet, and that's an important capability we're working on so that we can now take online orders and where it's optimal to fulfill from the store, drop that order to the store and have that delivered from store. We expect to have those capabilities in place by the end of our fiscal year this year, 2014. So today, when we think about interconnected retail, there are many options that are available. We buy online, return in store. We see this as a key advantage for store-based retailers, the ability to order online, get the product delivered to you, and if you don't like it, you can bring it back to a convenient store location and get credit right away. Second, you can buy online or pick up in the store. We can place an order online, have the order dropped to the store for pickup at this point, and have that product waiting for you very quickly. We also have enabled buy online, ship to store. We have about 35,000 SKUs in our store, but we have over 500,000 SKUs online. We want to be able to have those products to you at the store so that you can conveniently pick that up at the store. And that's available today through what we call BOSS, buy online, ship to store. And as I said, in 2014, we'll complete this by implementing buy online, deliver from store for the store SKUs that we have there. We think this will enable a lot of the building materials that we traditionally deliver from stores, and we look forward to bringing that capability to our customers. As I said, our supply chain continues to grow. We nowhere near have this completely figured out. You know, when we think about the Home Depot, our Christmas season, you know, many retailers revolve around Christmas. Our retailer revolves around spring. When the weather gets good, that's when people come to Home Depot. That's when they spruce up their garden. That's when they do the outside projects and do the major projects of home improvement. So spring is incredibly important to us. When we think about our distribution network that we've built, we have exactly 3 years, 3 springs of experience in operating that full network. So we're still very young in our days here in managing the Home Depot supply chain. So we have lots of opportunity to continue to improve. We'll continue to focus on those 4 key objectives as we go forward. You know, key to this is people, making sure that we have the people that we need to help us to optimize our supply chain. Lots of opportunities in the Home Depot supply chain to continue to optimize. Lots of opportunities to continue to bring in great talent to our Home Depot supply chain. With that, I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. That was great. Next up, we'll have Christopher LaGullo from Merck Pharmaceuticals.
There we go. All right, good morning, everybody. I know I am the last one before lunch, so I promise to keep my remarks brief. I'm Chris LaGullo. I'm with Merck Pharmaceuticals, and I've got responsibility for distribution and logistics in the United States, Canada, Puerto Rico. I've tried to explain to my kids what do I do, and my son said, "Oh, you're a drug transporter," and I said, "That's led to some interesting conversations at parent-teacher conferences." So I'll give you a very quick snapshot of Merck, just who we are, some of our products, but then really quickly get into the challenges we face in the industry and with the company and how we're reacting to that from a distribution perspective. So who's Merck? In 2013, we had $44 billion in global sales. That was down 3%, or down 7%, 3% of that due to exchange. But we're going through something that's similar to a lot in the industry. Sales are down on patent losses. We've got products coming off patent, and we're not able to replace them as quickly as we'd like. So we're a global company, $44 billion. We sell all over the globe, but $14.8 billion of that was pharmaceutical sales in the U.S., and another $4.3 billion in vaccines in the U.S. So we're still a very dominant U.S.-focused company. Our pipeline looks good. We've got the FDA granted us an accelerated approval for a product called MK3475, which is an innovative therapy for advanced melanoma, and we've got good progress on some key pipelines. That said, like the industry, we have divested some parts of our business, and we're exploring options with other parts of our business. These are some of our products. We do have products that span the spectrum from vaccines to women's health, to cardiovascular, to central nervous system, and that's going to continue going forward. So in general, though, the pharmaceutical industry is facing a lot of pressures. Frankly, here, compared to a lot of my peers, even on the stage, we've been a laggard in terms of outsourcing distribution. Traditionally, we would throw up, quality or service or regulatory concerns as the barriers. But as the industry is changing, with patent expirations and pricing pressures and increased competition, we frankly have had to adapt and change with the times. And frankly, if you're a pharmaceutical company today and you're looking at where to invest that next dollar of capital, and I don't know how many of you sat through the presentation yesterday with Baxter spending, I think it was $1.8 billion in a new biologics facility. I mean, our money is going to go into R&D because that's where our future is, or it's going to go into the newer stage, innovative manufacturing process. What does that mean for me? It means the company doesn't want to buy racking, material handling, trucks, warehouse management systems. So we've transitioned to a completely outsourced distribution network, and in North America, UPS is our provider. As a business, what does that mean? So we've taken to measuring on time in full, and from our perspective, that is a true supply chain metric. It is our ability to deliver on an order basis, on time to when the customer wants it completely in full. New product launches. So new products coming out. Some of the other challenges when you look at biologics. Traditional pharmaceuticals, tablets, high volume, very easy to or relatively easy to manufacture. Not as much regulatory burden and not as much of a technical challenge from a distribution. Biologics are actually living entities. They're sterile. Some of them are vibration sensitive. Some of them are light sensitive. All of them are temperature sensitive. So it may be 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. It may be minus 20. We've got the advanced melanoma product I talked about. Our bulk product has to be kept and transported at minus 40 C. So it adds an entire level of complexity to how you distribute our general mass market facilities. And then cost reductions. So I've had my budget cut 25% for this year. The boss looks at you and says, just take the money out, but keep service, keep delivering to the customers when we want. So it's really forced us to look at what do we truly spend our money on and what's really making a difference for customers and what can we not afford to do anymore. So when I talk about challenges, Singulair is our largest product. In 2012, we lost patent exclusivity in the US, and in 2013, we lost that in the rest of the world. That was a $4 billion a year medicine for us. And within a year, it'll go to under 400 million. And when you look at developing a new product, the numbers vary widely, it's public, but anywhere from 800 million to $1 billion to develop a new medicine over a 12-year period. So when you think about that, a 6-month or a 1-year delay in bringing out a new product when you're facing a patent loss, it's just a level of pressure that the industry hasn't seen and we're all grappling with. So what does that mean? As a focus, we have to continue to drive service to our customers because we can't allow service to be something that erodes market share. But we have to do that while reducing costs. And we also have to shift our capabilities from high volume mass market pharmaceuticals to temperature handling sensitive products. So this is our distribution network in North America. In the US, we cover the US from 3 distribution centers. And Georgia is very important to us. We have 2 facilities northeast of Atlanta. Duluth is a ambient controlled storage facility, and Sewanee is a cold storage, minus 2 to 8 and minus 20 storage and distribution. We have a hub on the West Coast in Reno that does both. But the reality for Georgia is we can cover just about east of the Rockies in 2 days ground. And that means I can cover about 80% of the population. So 80% of that $18 billion in US revenue comes out of Georgia. If you look at the other interesting challenges, and this is where I do think as an industry we are different. When you look at our volumes versus revenue, we're very different than some of my colleagues on stage here. So on the pharmaceutical side of the business, it's 75% of the US revenue. And I had 51,000 shipments in the US in 2013. But 85% of those units go through our 3 largest wholesalers. It's a very efficient supply chain. The order patterns are very predictable. They come in electronic. They're generally on a certain day of the week. We know exactly when they're going to come in. We know exactly when we need to pick them and ship them. The delivery is very predictable. So for 2 of our largest customers, they have national DCs that we ship full truckloads to, and they have central redistribution beyond there. For our 3rd customer, they have 25 points around the country where we do LTL, but very efficient. Vaccines, our vaccine business, it was only 25% of our US revenue, but we did 1.2 million packages shipped last year. For frozen vaccines, have to be kept minus 20. We drop ship directly to doctors' offices. The channel, so the wholesalers do not have the capability to handle frozen. So we frankly don't have an option. We have to ship. And then for our cold chain, 2 to 8, we have an open distribution model, which essentially means we're shipping our vaccines directly to doctors' offices. As a market, we have promised a 2-day promise. So from you order today, it will be delivered 2 days from now. That adds another level of complexity from a cost perspective and planning perspective in being able to handle and distribute cold chain around the country. And then you add the complexity of the product. So when you look at, this is just a snapshot of some of the products we have. even though we talk about cold chain, we have products that are driven by our science. So all of this is driven by our scientific organization and what the products can withstand. So even though we have products that we say are 2 to 8, and I may have to ship 2 to 8, if you look at that bucket, the 0 to 15, we ship those 2 to 8, but they actually have stability between 0 and 15. So if I do have an excursion for an hour, I may have the science to say that product is still adequate. We have products that are minus 20 to 25. We have products that are protect from freezing, so they're above 0. I can go probably up to 40 degrees Celsius, but if they freeze, they're bad. When you look at this complexity of products, that adds to the complexity of what we deal with. And traditionally, we've reacted to that with, packaging solutions for each one of those buckets, right? But when you look at that now, I've got 7 different categories of product, all with different temperature stability, and it ends up with 35 different types of packouts in the distribution center. It becomes a non-sustainable solution going forward. How do you get UPS to train their warehouse worker on the floor that for this product it's packed this way, for this product it's packed a different way? So we're really partnering with our quality and our packaging organizations to drive good science, good protection, but to be efficient at the same time. So when you look at our strategies and actions from a network strategy, I showed that map, and we've got 2 DCs, but we really have two fundamentally different businesses with one network. And when you look at our general pharma business, what I've said is it's large, regularly scheduled orders to wholesalers with efficient transportation. So it's really about working to drive cost out. Centrally located, align with your customers to align order patterns and frequencies and drive efficiencies. On the Merck vaccine division side, the reality is they're all unpredictable small parcel shipments. So we need a network that supports ground shipping. I'll go through another slide in a minute. But we're measuring the percentage of shipments we can go out on ground. And every 1 percentage point difference that I can get is $150,000 in cost to us. So it's, that geographic footprint and that to the hour cutoff time and order time is actually really critical for our cost, but it actually translates into service. And I'll get into a conversation about that in a minute. From a transportation strategy, we want to support the ground footprint, and we actually want to start utilizing customer differentiation. And this is going to sound funny to probably some of the others in the room. It's something that we've not done as a pharma industry. Every customer is the same, every order is the same, regardless of whether they order 1 vaccine a year or 3,000. Because at the end of the day, it is a vaccine that is going into our children, right? And you want to be able to support that. But we need to be able to do it in an efficient manner. So we're talking about requested delivery dates, having a shipping calendar where we can do this efficiently, but actually give very good service and ensure that the product is protected. And then we've got a packaging strategy. So the packaging strategy also is derived around supporting our ground shipping. So fully utilize our existing packouts. So qualifying the packaging we have now to sustain longer time in transit. And then developing or qualifying new packaging to optimize our total costs. And then really using our vendors and leveraging our 3PLs for best practices. The pharma industry in general, I talk about, it's been very insular. We haven't benchmarked very well outside the industry. And we know that, when you look at the complexity of a King's Hawaiian, you've got you're a regulated industry, you've got shelf life, you've got cold chain, you've got similar types of things that we could certainly learn from. So I talked about our ground effectiveness. I talked about that 1% increase in ground shipping, lowering our costs by $150,000. We've already started to leverage our packaging solutions and drive efficiency. Last year, these numbers were in the 40%, and we're now able to start to ship over the weekend and protect product. We're able to get 3-day transit on certain products and drive that efficiency. But when you see this, in January, February 15th, February 22nd, here in Atlanta, we experienced some weather, and a 1-day blip or a day and a half blip in the weather impacts us. So it's that 2-day SLA, that 2-day service level agreement, causes impact. So how do we deal with complexity of the weather, complexity of holidays, and still get service to our customers? So in the future, we're really talking about customer centricity, working with our key wholesalers and chains and retailers to drive supply chain improvements. So if you look at our general pharmaceutical business, we distribute to McKesson. They have a central distribution center in Memphis. They take everything we get and send it back out to chains, to stores. There's a lot of handling in that chain. So how do we work with them to see what's going out their door, where that is? Can we bypass steps in that channel and save money collaboratively? So that's really the direction we're going. Additionally, segmentation of our portfolio. So we have a similar, I love the slide from King's where our A, B, C, and D products, we treat C products just like their A products. And it's not a sustainable, efficient solution for the long term. So working with our retailers, working with our channel partners to drive, incentivize and push the A and B products where we can deliver that very reliably and ensure that a patient, when they need it, gets it. And then really work on how do we bridge that service cost gap on the lower tier products. On a cold chain side, we're talking about customer differentiation. So direct orders, having different service level agreements versus drop shipments, and an accelerate and incentivize a requested delivery date. When we first brought this up, it was revolutionary in the company. And we said, everybody here today shops online. And when you buy from Amazon on December 23rd and expect to get it for Christmas, it may not happen. And if you do, you're going to pay a premium for that. We have not traditionally worked in that manner. So we really want to take the revolutionary concept of asking our customers what do they want. And what we find is, when you're dealing with a doctor's office, a lot of them order at the end of the week because they're looking at what they've got in stock, and they're like everyone else. They don't want to manage a lot of inventory. So on Wednesday or Thursday, they look at what their appointment book is for next week and place an order. They really don't need it Friday. They may not need it till Monday. They may not need it till Tuesday. They may not even need it till Wednesday. Those are 3 days that are crucially important for us from a cost perspective, but from a service perspective. So we talked about on time. I talked about on time and full before. Last year in 2013 in the vaccines business, we delivered 97.5% on time and full. 1.2 million orders. It means that I was able to take the order on time. I was able to clear any credit checks, balance against the contract. I had the stock in stock, and I delivered with a proof of delivery to that doctor's office 97.5% of the time with a 2-day promise. We're able to do that and increase our percentage of ground. So we have those conversations about if I actually had 3 or 4 days of notice or more of a predictive pattern, how much better would my service be? Could I use more innovative packaging to get it there cheaper, but actually be better at delivering to the customer and ensure that they don't get something that's out of spec, that's not what they wanted? So we're looking at that online model. And we're also looking at new cold chain capabilities. So right now, it's not a great environmental footprint. We're shipping generally EPS. So it's polystyrene containers with gel bricks. They're heavy. The doctors don't like it because they have to throw them away. And you're shipping a lot of bulk and weight that's got nothing to do with the product. So we're looking at phase change material, which could give us much longer time in transit. We're also looking at reusable packaging. Can I get a closed loop? Can I send product out, have that box returned back to me, and reuse that multiple times? So that's really the future of where we are from a distribution perspective. I thank you for your time, and I think now it's time for questions.
Thanks so much, Christopher. That was great, and thanks to all of our panelists. Wanted to open it up for questions. We have some microphones running around the room. Any questions for our presenters today? Yes.
I'd like to address a question to Ryan. In regards to the slide that you showed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. You had 121% ROI, and I think as it relates to fuel and freight. Can you expound on that?
Sure. The ROI is just sort of what we spent over what we saved, or maybe the opposite of that. But that's really kind of what we're looking at. But I think to just expand on the TMS implementation as a whole, I think one of the things we really lacked is we lacked the ability to sort of compare and contrast lane rates, to understand what the industry was at as a whole by not having that visibility. And so what we really pushed for was that broad visibility, to understand what everybody was paying, to be able to bid out different lanes, to drive standardization across all of our shipments. So that's sort of really where we saw the savings. We also saw some of it, although a smaller piece, on just the performance that the organization experienced as a result of not having to, I'll give you an example. We were double paying invoices before TMS was implemented. So, things like that also drove savings. But primarily, it was that optimization of our transportation network and the lanes that we were using.
So your investment was the TMS?
I'm sorry?
The investment piece was the TMS?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
Brian, I also had a question. I was interested in you implementing an S&OP program and the effect it had on inventory turns. What were your turns prior to implementing the programs, and how good did it turn out after you implemented your S&OP programs?
Sure. So I highly recommend if you don't have a sales and operations planning process, or just some sort of integrated planning, whatever you want to call it internally, I highly recommend it, because it brings people to the table with differing points of view that really drives results. That said, our inventory turns I'll give you rough numbers, are probably less than 10, which for a CPG company is not good. And we'd like them to be, if at all possible, certainly above 12, but push towards 18. And there are certain things we deal with, like the seasonality aspect of our business, which make, without having a ton of excess capacity, it can make that a bit difficult to achieve, that high of a turn rate. But that would be our goal.
Hi,
Yes,
my
sir.
name's Vicki, and I'm with PEI. That's 888-SHIP-911. I have a question for each one of you. Mr. Merck, I'd like to know about your sample program, and do you deliver to the doctor's offices now, or do you still deliver to sales? Mr. Home Depot and Mr. Walmart, I hear you driving deliveries to your stores. What's your thoughts on end-user deliveries? And then Mr. King, what is your number one number that you mentioned? Every company ought to have one number they're driving for.
I didn't
Thanks.
get that question for Walmart. What was it again?
Okay, so Mr. Walmart and Mr. Home Depot, you guys sound like you're driving your deliveries back to your store. In other words, they're ordering online, you want them to go to the store, not maybe directly to the contractor or to the end user, and what are your thoughts on the growth in that arena?
Well, I can answer from our view. It's we like it. We think that e-commerce is really going to be big for us, getting even bigger. We're making a lot of investments in it, and we think that we have one advantage over other e-commerce stores, is that we have the brick and mortar stores. So obviously we can use them as a small distribution center, and we are doing just that in a lot of areas. One, such as what we deliver to the Georgia Tech store, that's taken to another store, segregated, palletized, and then taken by a third party. So we do a lot of that, and so we're looking forward to doing that with our e-commerce also.
Yes, and at the Home Depot, I think we're really looking for the customer to decide how they want to engage. And so we're enabling multiple different options to allow that to happen. With buy online, pick up in store, the customer can go online and have the product prepared by the store for pickup, and they get to choose which store they want to pick it up at. In terms of the ship to store, that's really to allow us to extend the aisle beyond the 35,000 SKUs that are in the store. Some customers prefer not to have those products delivered directly. They prefer to pick them up in the store for a variety of reasons. Some customers just don't like having a UPS box put on their doorstep, while they're at work all day. Various reasons, or they want to go to the store and get other things and have this product there as well. So ship to store is a very important part of our initiatives. And then deliver from store, as I said, we deliver from every store today. It's just that you have to go into the store or call the store to get that delivery arranged today. With the future functionality that we're implementing, you'll be able to go online, and for those products that are in the store, be able to get those delivered on a scheduled basis from the store. That'll open up many SKUs that we won't have in these direct fulfillment centers. If you think about lumber and building materials, some of the bigger, bulkier stuff, think of somebody who needs a pallet of concrete. We're not going to stock that centrally. The store is likely the best place to originate that delivery from. And so we'll be able to take an order online, drop that to the appropriate store, deliver the pallet of concrete to where the customer wants.
Chris, did you want to hit on the sample question?
In terms of samples, we do distribute, actually it's a mix. We distribute some directly to doctors' offices. We do some directly to sales reps. Some of that is also driven by some of the temperature sensitivity of handling. I do think going forward, the industry as a whole is looking at that model, and is that the best way to go forward? We're looking at partnering with our channel partners where you may just get a prescription that's filled for free at the pharmacy. You may get a rebate or something like that. So we're looking at those types of options. But today we are distributing directly to primarily to doctors' offices, some going to reps though as well.
Okay. In the interest of time, I just want to get some more people asking questions. You had one, sir?
Yes, Mark Solomon, DC Velocity Magazine. I actually have a question for Christopher and one for Howard. The issues you described with Merck, the characteristics you laid out in your presentation, are those centric to Merck, or are those sort of generic to pharma manufacturers?
I think it's there are some that are particular to Merck, but the entire industry is facing the challenge. When you think about, I talked about the length of time it takes to get a drug approved, the pricing pressures, they're not going away. Europe has been, I think, the first time in history that 3 years in a row sales are actually down in pharmaceuticals in Europe. So the pricing pressures are not going away. And plus, the complexity of the drugs coming out today, it's not good enough to launch the 15th statin in the marketplace anymore. So the innovation required for new drugs has just upped the burden. So the entire industry is looking for ways to grow revenue, but also take cost out. I think Merck in particular, when you look at, I talked about the loss of Singulair, that's $3.5 billion in revenue from last year we're not going to get this year. When you look at our vaccine business is growing, so it's a bright spot to us. So that's an area of sales that's growing, but it's also a very costly, as a percentage of cost or a percentage of revenue, it's a higher cost product to distribute than a tablet that has no temperature requirements. So those are particular to Merck, but the industry as a general is facing very similar pressures.
The pharma business, the goods move through distributors. And you may have touched on this in the presentation. How much say do you have in how the goods get to market from the distributor to the end user? And who normally moves that?
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the industry that it's not regulated, but it's commercial driven. And when you look at the wholesalers, there's three big ones that handle the majority of the pharma, and I know there's a lot of competition downstream between the chains and some of the other retail outlets amongst them. What they bring is scale. So when you think about Merck trying to deliver to every pharmacy or to every chain, it would be cost prohibitive for me to do that when a McKesson is taking from every manufacturer and being able to do daily, and in a lot of these places they're doing multiple time a day deliveries. So they offer a service that is very, very hard for us to counteract in the general mass market area. When you start talking about biologics, some of the oncology drugs, very, very expensive. So even if the wholesalers have it, they're not going to stock it in every forward DC. The uptake, especially as you launch, the forecasts are wildly unpredictable because it's just not known how it's going to be taken up. The temperature sensitivity. So that's where you start to see hybrid models where 3PLs, the channel partners themselves have specialty units, and it's a much more wide open field right now. And you see a lot of movement in that field among all the partners about options to market. It's changing very rapidly in that space.
And one final question for Howard. Has Walmart hit on an MPG estimate for that new, that Amazon Eater vehicle that's being in prototype now?
No, we don't have it. In fact, you know as much about it as I do because I just pulled it right off the internet. And I called and tried to get some numbers out of it, but no one has that at this time. Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
I guess this is a question for everybody. When we listen to the folks in the energy business, they all tout natural gas as a potential different fuel for over-the-road trucks. And is there any reality to that from where you all sit?
Yes, at the Home Depot, we have a number of pilots going with natural gas-powered vehicles with our carriers out in the marketplace.
Good result?
Remains to be seen.
John, talk about that, Howard.
Well, we actually have some experimentation with that. And matter of fact, we just ordered 2,000 hydrogen-fueled forklifts that we're using now. So we're experimenting with that. We actually have trucks that run on chicken grease. So if you see any dogs chasing our trucks, that's why. They're smelling that chicken grease. But yes, we have experimented with that, and we have other things going on. But yes, we have done that.
Excellent. I think we have time for about one more question. I think there's one over here.
Paul Brown, professor of supply chain at Clark Atlanta University. I want to ask a question too about the data scientist piece. Too, then about 10 years ago too, we've been a member of SAP Alliance now too. Then at the university, so students get that exposure. About 3 years ago, the MBA students started getting the Black Green Belt and Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma certification. We started to go down this road too with the data mining, data scientists. But then, how much would someone need to then? So for a supply chain student, would it be 5 or 6 weeks be enough maybe? Or should be a semester course for them? How much work would be sufficient for them to have some type of understanding that would be useful in a corporate environment in this area of data mining or data scientist role?
Yeah, gosh, this is tough to answer. You might actually know the answer better than me, but I think it's enough to where they really understand large data sets. I don't think that it's anything where they need to be trained on supply chain specific data sets. It's really that they just need to understand how to let data tell the story, and how to. Data science kind of involves a number of things. It's data conditioning. It's it's bringing data sets together. It's the analytics around it. So there's a number of different pieces. I would think that a program that deals with modeling in their program, where you're modeling different supply chain scenarios, anything that focuses on the management science, OR, operations research side of things, something like that might drive that accountability. But really, in my experience, it's been just sitting down and talking with someone and seeing their ability to grasp what data is telling and then be able to tell me a story from that.
Excellent. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our time. Once again, thank you all for joining us. And let's have another round of applause, please, for our panelists. Their wonderful insights.
Again, thank you very much, Jess, for doing it. Let's have one more round of applause here for our panelists and moderator.